do wrong? Anybody tell me? It's a Dubuque car, right? I am thrilled to be in Dubuque. First of all, this is the closest I've been to home in a week. So that's one reason I'm glad to be here. The second reason I'm glad to be here is that my wife and children usually once a summer have tried to take a little trip and sneak up to Galena and pop over to the Dubuque during the summers and just enjoy the river and the people. And my kids always get ice cream out of us during those trips. And so I just have a lot of fond memories of this area. And so it's wonderful to be back, especially on such a beautiful day. And I'll be honest with you, I just like coming back to the Midwest. There's something about the sensibility here that makes me feel good, especially after a whole week of being in Washington. And so I'm glad to be back close to home. About, I guess February 10th was the day that I announced that I'd be running for the presidency of the United States of America. I stood in front of the old state capitol. Thank you. Thank you. I stood in front of the old state capitol in Springfield, Illinois, where Abraham Lincoln stood and delivered his famous speech saying that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And I was a little worried, and not because of the speech, but because it was 7 degrees and I thought nobody was going to show up. And we ended up having 17,000 people come. And there was enormous energy and just a great spirit. And then we traveled into Iowa and we went to Cedar Rapids and Waterloo and ended up in Ames, Iowa. And everywhere we went, we were getting great crowds. And what was especially gratifying to me is a lot of times I travel alone when I'm campaigning. But this time I have a family. So I have my wife, Michelle, my older daughter, Leah, younger daughter, Sasha, mother-in-law, godparents. We brought some cousins in to play with the kids. And as we're barreling down the highway between cities, I go over to my daughters and ask, how you doing? And my older daughter, Leah, says, oh, Dad, this is great. Dad, you should bring us one more on. I said, that's a good idea. And she goes back to what she's doing. And then after that, she turns to me and she says, what are we doing here again? And my 5-year-old said, this has to do with Daddy's president thing. Which was right as far as it goes. But if I had time to give a fuller answer, then what I would have said is that we're here today because this country is at a crossroads. We are at a crossroads internationally, we are at a crossroads domestically. We have a set of challenges that everybody in this audience knows all too well. We've got a healthcare system that's broken, that's bankrupting families, bankrupting federal government, state government, local governments. We've got an education system that is not adequate to the task of educating our kids to compete in a global economy, where they're going to have to compete against not just folks across the river, not just people across the river, but also young people in China and India. And we've got to make sure that every young person has access to college. Yet we've got a system in which too many of our young people end up being priced out of getting the education that they need to get a good job. We've got an economy that is doing very well for some people. I just left New York City last night, and you'll meet 20 and 30-year-old hedge fund managers who've never had it so good. And yet there are whole communities in Iowa and across the river in Illinois, communities like Galesburg, Illinois, where people who work 20, 30 years suddenly find themselves without health care, their pensions at risk, having to compete against their teenage kids for a $7 an hour job at the local Walmart. And we know that that's not the kind of America that we want for future generations. America where it's only a handful of people are doing well, because this country has been built on the idea that everybody's got a stake, everybody has opportunity, upward mobility, shared prosperity.